Hey everybody, welcome to another Purple Insider Extra from outside of US Bank Stadium. Matthew Coller here along with Sam Ekstrom as we've just finished up watching Minnesota Vikings practice inside. And Sam, I think my biggest takeaway here is, now wait for this breaking news, when Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson both don't practice on the same day, it's not as good. That's my biggest takeaway.
That's a bold statement. I think I'll need a few more days to see if that's true. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't good. The quarterback looks like he's in his head a little bit with everything that's gone on with him this past week. Justin Jefferson, AC joint sprain, considered day-to-day by Ian Rappaport. Adam Thielen shaken up on Friday, didn't do live drills today. And let's just keep rattling them off. D.D. Westbrook still a ways away. He might have been your wide receiver 3 this year. So we're seeing 3 wide receiver sets with KJ Osborne, Ihmir Smith-Marsette, and Chad Beebe. And the offense does not look as confident with that group. Your offensive line is still unsettled. And this is supposed to be the strength of this team, Coller. This is where the continuity is, and a lot of moving parts right now.
And from the injury standpoint also, Anthony Barr has not practiced for 2 straight days and was not in attendance as far as we could see at the US Bank Stadium field, which leaves you to wonder, will he be out and will he be added to that injury list? We don't have any information yet on that, but I did notice that they were mixing in quite a few people. Nick Vigil, Ryan Connolly got some first team reps as well. And Sam, I think what this shows you is just how fragile this team can be, that if you lose a starter like Justin Jefferson or you lose a starter like Anthony Barr, your next man up is likely someone unproven, and it feels like a little bit of a redux of what we went through last year, having a lot of these same conversations.
Yeah, and I said this on our recent podcast, the fragility of this team is in different places this year. Last year, the linebacker group was really deep. Eric Wilson was a fantastic fill-in. This year, I wouldn't say the same thing about the linebackers. I don't think Ryan Connolly should be on the field at any point. And even some of the younger guys they brought in, Troy Dye, Chaz Surratt, we don't know if they're any good yet. Nick Vigil is maybe going to be their third linebacker. He's competing with Cameron Smith, but the offensive line seems more fragile than last year. The cornerbacks seem a little more solidified. So it's just kind of taking areas of strength from last year and weakening them, and then strengthening areas of weakness. And I think a lot of NFL teams would say the same thing, but for a group in the Vikings that is constantly on the edge of being good and never quite there, you'd like to feel a little more confident about some of these things, and we just don't right now with so much youth. Like, remember, Coller, there was a 15-man draft class last year, then another dozen this year, plus UDFAs. I mean, you're talking about a 30-year roster, our first or second-year players, maybe even more than that with all the undrafted guys. So there's just so much youth that we don't know about, really.
Now, speaking of that and the wide receiver group, it seems more and more likely that Chad Beebe will end up being your wide receiver 3 with D.D. Westbrook not practicing. Ihmir Smith-Marsette has not really emerged. He got first team reps with the 2 starters out, but we didn't see a whole lot of playmaking today. And KJ Osborne, we got very excited about him, specifically you, without pads, but that's always the thing. Let's wait till pads come on. We have not seen a whole lot since pads came on with KJ Osborne. Now, let me slip just to the other side of, I don't want you to have to talk too much about Osborne's tough day, but when it comes to the other side of the field, Michael Pierce looks like he's on the mend and he's coming back. And I thought he had a terrific practice in the reps that he took today. And our first real look at Delvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce, I think that's going to be very, very difficult for opponents because Michael Pierce looks explosive and strong, and in the one-on-ones he looked great, as they usually take those right before they do the 11-on-11s.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer's been looking at his watch every day, like how many days left until we get to see Michael Pierce in there. This has been 18 months in the making. You know, they signed him last March. They wanted to see him last year. They never did. He was hurt to start this training camp, so it literally has been a year and a half of waiting to see this vision play out of having a massive nose tackle. There's a reason that they wanted sort of the apples-to-apples replacement for Linval Joseph, because that's a foundational piece of Mike Zimmer defenses that he always had as the Vikings coach until last year. And then the defensive tackles really, really suffered without it. So now that he's back in the mix, I think it's going to be unique. It's going to be fun. And there was one running play that I brought up to you where the running back just disappeared into a wall of flesh. Tomlinson and Pierce provide an impenetrable kind of like duo in the middle there. So that's going to give Zimmer the opportunity to tee up some blitzes on like 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8, stuff like that. And that's what he, I think, wants to get out of this.
We saw a very interesting play today where DJ Wanham lined up at defensive end and he dropped back in a zone blitz. They sent Cam Smith as a blitzer, sort of threw off Jake Browning. He threw an interception. And I think that we could see a lot of creativity that Mike Zimmer really hasn't been allowed to do. He had the same defensive line for the most part for most of his early years. And then last year, they didn't have the talent to get very creative. So this year they do. And I think that DJ Wanham could end up being ultimately a key piece to that, of course, along with Tomlinson and Michael Pierce. I also think, Sam, that the secondary looks solidified, that there is not really a battle between Cam Dantzler and Bashaud Breeland. It looks like Breeland is locked in, and the secondary may be part of the reason that the offense has also struggled recently.
Yeah, no doubt. And, add in the better defensive line along with that. I mean, there is reason to believe that this defense can be very good if things go right. And so far, I think a lot of the veteran pickups have kind of looked like they should. Xavier Woods, to my eye, has looked very good.
Yep.
Brashad Breeland has looked very good. Michael Pierce, we just talked about. Dalvin Tomlinson has looked good. I think almost across the board, you can be pretty encouraged about how this defense is shaping up. And the secondary especially has potential, I think, to be a rock on this defense. And it's going to only improve by having a better pass rush. The two work so closely together.
All right, we got to bring up the most important thing here 6 minutes into the video. All the kickers made their kicks today, US Bank Stadium. We actually do have a kicker update that Riley Patterson was on the field for the first time. Patterson was the undrafted free agent out of Memphis?
Yes.
Memphis, okay. Undrafted free agent out of Memphis who has not been on the field yet so far. Kind of got called out by Mike Zimmer for not having practiced yet. He and Greg Joseph made all their kicks. Each took 2 from around 35 yards and from around 47, 49, somewhere in there. And all of them went through the uprights. And you know what? The fans who were here at US Bank Stadium, there wasn't even a big roar. There wasn't even a Bronx cheer. Look, a Vikings kicker made it. I was surprised. But also, just to tack that on, nice to see fans back in the stands. And Adam Thielen was talking about how, Justin Jefferson's never seen that before. The guys who have just gotten here have not seen fans in the stands at US Bank Stadium because of last year.
Yeah, let's talk first about this kicker competition. I am making no bets on who's going to win that job because I've learned too many times that what happens early in training camp does not matter. We saw Daniel Carlson rip it up in training camp. We saw Corey Vedvik look really good, making 60-yard kicks, and then the preseason started. And then things went haywire. And you can make all your kicks in practice, and if you miss 2 kicks in a game, that might disqualify you.
Yep.
So I'm not going to make any judgments. Obviously, Greg Joseph, just by being there, kind of had the lead in this competition, but Patterson can make up ground fast if Joseph struggles at all.
All right, it's starting to rain on us here outside of US Bank Stadium. Hopefully not an ominous signal for the Vikings going forward. They'll practice again on Monday. We'll catch you then. Make sure you check out the Purple Insider podcast for a longer discussion on today's practice and purpleinsider.substack.com for our written breakdown. We'll catch you then.